Hello, this is Dr. Bob Gray Sr. Welcome to Ministry Moments. Lord willing, every Friday, 3 o'clock Central Time, you can get this broadcast. Just go to Ministry Moments YouTube and then find Bob Gray Sr. and then subscribe. That way you'll get this just automatically every week. Brief, punctiliar, to the point. You've heard me say it before. Brother Roloff said to me one time, you know what the people need? I said, what's that, Brother Roloff? He said, "Need porcupine preaching." That's where the people get the point. And so hopefully it's like that fat woman going to eat that barbed wire fish, a few more points and we'll be through. But all emails are addressed to bgraysr@me.com. God bless you. Today, I want to talk to you about ministry adjustments. Ministry adjustments. I remember being in Wyoming with Dr. Hiles, and we had lunch together. And I asked him some questions. We were heading back to the room after we had the morning meeting, conference preaching. And I asked him some questions. He stopped in the hallway, turned and looked at me, and he said, "Do not jerk the steering wheel. Slowly turn the steering wheel." And a lot of things he said, I wrote down. That was one of them. Never break stride. I wrote that in front of my red Schofield Bible back when I used to use Schofield Bible. And just so many statements, just one-liners like that. I just recently wrote an article, Living Above the Fray. And I mentioned some of that in that article. You can get that at softchurchproblems.com. I write a blog every week, and subscribe there, softchurchproblems.com, and subscribe. And then you'll be able to, as a myriad of helps there, be a help to you. So based off of that statement by Brother Hiles, I want to talk to you about ministry adjustments. Every once in a while in your ministry, I'm in my 49th year of ministry, you have to make adjustments. So let me help you with this. Number one, I'm going to reemphasize the statement Brother Hiles said to me: do not jerk the steering wheel. Do not jerk the steering wheel. I don't know what it is that you're concerned about and you feel like we've got to make adjustments. It may be your Christian school. It may be your Sunday school. It may be your bus ministry. It may be a lot of things. But whatever you do, never forget this. Do not jerk the steering wheel. Slowly make your adjustment. In your mind, it may be complete. But in the minds of the people who are following you, you have to understand there's a reason why you're the pastor and they're not. So do not jerk the steering wheel. Number two, know the difference between change and improvement. Know the difference between change and improvement. When I hear people pray, "Lord, change me," I know what they mean. I understand what you mean. But oh my goodness, to me, my mind starts working differently when I hear the word change. So that's my next point. Change is like the law of thermodynamics. Change is like the law of thermodynamics. Left alone, everything will deteriorate. If left alone, everything will deteriorate. That to me is the word change. There's a difference between change and improvement. Now listen to me. You can't just leave everything alone. You've got to constantly be working to improve, not change. I don't want to change. I want the basics to be the same. I want the foundation to be the same. I want the fundamentalism to be the same. I want the doctrine to be the same. But there are things that we can do. For example, we started doing background checks on Sunday school teachers and workers, bus workers, and so we had 40 bus routes. So we did background checks. Well, that was unheard of in the early days of my ministry. It was absolutely unheard of. But in this day and time, you're just going to have to be extra cautious and careful. That's an improvement. New carpet, new PA system, all of that's improvement. My wife, I go somewhere to preach, and she'll ask me on the phone, she'll say, "What time's their service on Sunday night?" And when I say 7 o'clock, she always said, "Oh, they've not changed. They're staying the same, aren't they?" And she likes that. And if I say the church is at 6 or 5, she calls them compromisers. But there's something. Insecurity is going to hurt when there's a lack of stability. It's going to lead to insecurity. You've got to have stability. You have to have stability. So I said, number one, we're talking about ministry adjustments. I don't know what area in your ministry it is, but adjustment. Do not jerk the steering wheel. This is a marathon, not a race. So pace yourself. This is a marathon, not a 100-yard dash. So pace yourself. So number one, do not jerk the steering wheel. Number two, know the difference between change and improvement. Number three, change is like the law of thermodynamics. Don't change the oil in your car, see what happens. Don't grease it and see what happens. Don't take care of your house and see what happens. Don't put a new roof on and see what happens. Don't paint it and see what happens. Everything left alone is going to deteriorate. And that's when I think of the word change, that's what I think of, the law of thermodynamics. You got to change the oil. You got to paint the building. You've got to grease the car. You have to. All of that has to be done. All right. Now, number one, we're talking about ministry adjustments now. Number one, do not jerk the steering wheel. Number two, know the difference between change and improvement. Number three, change is like the law of thermodynamics. Number four, improvement comes on purpose. Improvement comes on purpose. You're going to have to determine that, okay, we never used to have safety meetings with the bus drivers, but it got to where we'd had accidents and different things happen. We had to have safety meetings, and then our insurance demanded we have safety meetings. Well, that's an improvement. To check the driving records of those that are going to CDL drivers and so on, and to get them, have the insurance company approve of them, have an approved list of drivers, have a driver's meeting, have a safety meeting, and all of that. That's an improvement. That's an improvement. So I said, number one, you're talking about ministry adjustments now. Sometimes you just, in your ministry, you're going to have to make adjustments. Number one, do not jerk the steering wheel. Don't do that. Don't abruptly change anything. Number two, know the difference between change and improvement. Number three, change is like the law of thermodynamics. If left alone, everything's going to deteriorate on its own if left alone. Number four, improvement comes on purpose. Number five, live fish go upstream against the current. Live fish go upstream against the current. Contemporaries can't see any further down the road than you can. That's why you need to get to the great men of the past. That's why you need to learn from those who have already done it and already accomplished it. That's why you need to do that. Don't run with your contemporaries, because they're going to lead you astray. They can't see any further down the road than you can. Study Dr. Jack Hyles. Study Dr. Lee Robertson. Study Curtis Hudson. Study Tom Malone. Study these great men, J. Frank Norris, and that great Sunday school, and G.B. Vick in Temple. Oh, what a thrill that was when we went up to visit G.B. Vick and see that great Temple Baptist Church. Not there now, but in the day in Detroit, 5,000 people there for Sunday school. Amazing, amazing. You can learn from these men of the past, not your contemporaries. Your contemporaries are going to have you have worship teams. They're going to have you have a lot of things. You'll go to cell groups. Some of you will even have Sunday school on Wednesday night. Some crazy things. Be careful. Be very careful. Listen, same play, just different actors. What Jack Hyles faced and Lee Robertson faced and Tom Malone faced with the hippies, the long-haired hip Jesus freaks they were called of his day, is no different than now. The emerging church, recovering fundamentalists, you got to be a fundamentalist before you can recover. You are never in the ball game, pal. So understand that live fish go upstream against the current. You've got to fight the current. You've got to fight what's going on with the liberals of our stripe. The fundamentalism, liberal fundamentalists, they don't listen to them. They've never done anything. They haven't accomplished anything. Jack Hyles has 1,000 preacher boys like myself around the country. Dr. Lee Robertson got 1,000 missionaries around the world. Amazing, absolutely amazing. You could learn from these men, and have produce your own product, but you can't do it if you're going to let contemporaries walk alongside of you and tell you what to do or get your ideas from them and so on. You're going to end up messing up what you're going to end up messing up. You're not going to have souls saved like you used to have, and baptism and church growth. You're not going to have it. All right. So number one, do not jerk the steering wheel. Number two, know the difference now between change and improvement. Number three, change is like the law of thermodynamics. if you don't take care of your car, your car's going to fall apart. My wife and I have 2006 automobiles. They're paid for. Don't owe anything on them. Don't owe anything on them. But boy, we keep that oil change. We keep it. That car she has. Everybody in town wants to buy that car, and I've got them lined up out here. If we ever get ready to sell it, it's immaculate. My wife keeps it clean, and it's just immaculate. And I don't know what it's worth. Maybe I better look and see how much it's worth. But improvement comes on purpose. Live fish go upstream against the current. Number 6, basics must remain the basic. Basics must remain basic and the same. Basics must remain basic. Don't change. With the Green Bay Packers, Vince Lombardi. I met one of his players who happened to, when I was at Michigan State, he played for Illinois. And he told me about Vince Lombardi. I had a long conversation with him in the airport. And he said to me, Vince Lombardi would start out every year with the basics: blocking, tackling, blocking, tackling. And he kept the basics. When the Mets won the World Series, which was a shock to everybody, and it would be a shock in his day and time too. But the manager took from first base to second base to third base to home without the reporters being there. Reporters came in and just got to the players and said, "What in the world? He blocked us out. He kept us reporters out. What in the world did he tell you when he moved from home plate to first to second?" And the player said, he said to us, "If we get to first base, then you can get to second. If you get to second, then you get to third. You get to third, you can go home and score and win and keep your job." Basics, 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 basics. Our high school football coaches in the Hall of Fame in the state of Michigan. And we only allowed 12 yards for rushing against us for the entire year. And we played the big game of the year, had 4,000 people come to watch this little Class C high school football team. And the Kalamazoo College coach said to our coach, "I wouldn't play your team. Your team is that, the seniors were that good." And all 11 of us had scholarships to play college ball. But he was a man of basics. Every year, same thing, basics, basics. He gave trophies out if you never missed a practice. And he knew he had to get you there in order to get you where you needed to be. All right. Welcome to the football hour. Ministry adjustments. Number 1, do not jerk the steering wheel. Number 2, know the difference between change and improvement. Number 3, change is like the law of thermodynamics. If left alone, everything deteriorates. Number 4, improvement comes on purpose. Number 5, that's why you have weekly staff meetings. That's why you have weekly Sunday school teachers. You pastors that are not having weekly teachers and workers meetings, what in the world? You've got to stay on top of it. You have to stay on top of it. You can't just meet once a quarter and expect to have what Jack Hiles had, Lee Robertson had. You can't do it. You can't do it. Lee Robertson had 10,000 in Sunday school, but he had 10,000 for a reason. Jack Hiles had 20,000 for a reason. He had teachers and workers meeting every week of the world without fail. All right. So do not jerk the steering wheel. Know the difference between change and improvement. Change is like the law of thermodynamics. If left alone, everything deteriorates on its own. Improvement comes on purpose. Live fish go upstream against the current. Number 6, basics must remain the basics. They've got to be. They've got to be. You don't change the fundamentals. Then number 7, live by Bible principles. Live by Bible principles. Learn and jot down and record Bible principles to help you to stay on track. To me, Bible principles are like driving down the road. If you fall asleep, start drifting off, they cut lines into the next to the road there. So you thump, 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 thump. It wakes you up. Say, oh, I'm about to fall asleep. And in the middle, they got these metal that thump, thump, thump. You're about to have a head-on collision or end up in the ditch. To me, those are Bible principles. Read the book of Proverbs chapter every day. Write some things down, some do's and don'ts from the scripture, and learn from these Bible principles that are there. That Bible you have is a recipe for life. It's filled with recipes. It's an instruction manual for life. The more you know about that Bible and the principles that God has given that Bible, you see, here's a king in the book of Proverbs not teaching his son how to be a king, but how to live a kingly life. And if you live for a position, you can lose a position, but live for a purpose. Don't live for a position, live for a purpose. Well, ministry adjustments, I hope it helped you. And be sure and join us every Friday for this broadcast at Ministry Moments YouTube. Find Bob Gray Sr. Subscribe. That way you'll get it every week of the world. And then go to solvechurchproblems.com and subscribe there. You'll get my weekly blog, and you'll get quotes and memes and ideas, ministry ideas, daily ministry ideas that'll be a blessing to you. So take advantage of that. Hey, tomorrow's soul winning time. Let's win some people to Christ. Line up 5 for Sunday morning. Get you 5 converts lined up for Sunday morning. Tomorrow's soul winning. It's the preparation day for the Lord's Day, which is Sunday. God bless you. Have a great soul winning time. And be back here next Friday, 3 o'clock Central.